Welcome back to English and Beyond, a podcast for intermediate to advanced students of English. As always, there is a transcript available at www.morethan.alanguage.com. My name is Oliver, and I'm here with my partner and most frequent collaborator, César. He's looking very tired. He's yawning.
Sorry.
It's a late Tuesday night, and tonight, we're going to do something a little bit different. In the name of total transparency, this is because I need to write, record, and edit 2 episodes this week, because next week I'm going away for a few days. So, César and I are going to imitate, very badly, a British radio institution. In this context, institution means, according to the Cambridge Dictionary, a custom or tradition that has existed for a long time and is accepted as an important part of a particular society. So, Desert Island Discs is an institution in British radio, and it started in 1942. In fact, it's such an institution that I more or less know its format despite never, ever having listened to a single episode myself. The way that it works is that they invite a guest, a celebrity, onto the show, and this person is called the castaway, referring to the idea that they may be cast away, lost on a desert island. A desert island isn't necessarily an island that is also a desert, but instead a deserted island, one that is totally isolated, one that is totally separated from where you may reasonably have no hope or expectation of being rescued. So the castaway, the celebrity, then chooses 8 of their favourite audio recordings, normally music, a book, and a luxury item that they will take with them. This luxury item must be inanimate. That is, it cannot be alive, and it has to be of no use in escaping the island or allowing communication from outside. Okay? César and I are going to do a twist on this format. Firstly, there is no way that anyone would be interested in listening to me discuss 8 music tracks. And secondly, because we don't have the time for such a long discussion in a 25-minute episode. So instead, I'm going to be choosing 4 tracks under specific themes, plus the book and the luxury item. Since this is our English podcast, I will be choosing the tracks. However, I have already interviewed César for our Spanish for False Beginners podcast, so you can listen to that if you are learning Spanish or you already speak it. And then you can hear César's choices.
Yeah. I have to say, the name of the podcast is literally Spanish for False Beginners.
Yes, exactly. And, well, if you don't speak Spanish, you can sign up to our transcript and download the transcript, which is in Spanish and English. If you're really that interested, that obsessed about...
I'm sure no one will do that.
Yes. But if there is anyone who really needs to know what your 4 favourite pieces of music are, then technically they could. So, we don't have the rights for any music at all. So if you want to go and check out the music, then you can go and do so, because we're only going to choose songs that are available on Spotify or YouTube.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how people. I've listened to some podcasts where they use music, and I don't know how they do it, because I don't think it's legal.
I don't think it's legal either, but there are some people that are not obsessively anxious like us.
Let's not take the risk.
No, as a former lawyer myself, and as someone who is incredibly anxious, about legal risks, I think it's probably not worth us getting hit by a multi-million-pound lawsuit, even though I think that obviously the number of people that listen to the podcast means that it shouldn't be that big, but apparently they really see you when they see you.
Yeah, I'm sure. I had issues with YouTube, for example. The algorithm can spot very quickly if you've used like a piece of music or like a small clip from a show in the 90s. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And do you remember when people used to illegally download music? on LimeWire and things like that. All the music companies, if they found out that you had been uploading the music, I think more than downloading it illegally, they used to charge you thousands per song.
Wow.
I will confess that I did illegally download music, and sorry, mum and dad, but we escaped getting billed for it. So, and it was an important part of being young in the noughties.
Yeah, that's true. I think everyone did it. In Spain, it was the same. But it's actually quite interesting how the culture has changed, in the sense people now find completely normal to pay to watch films with Netflix or Disney Plus, or play music using Spotify, Apple Music, Apple. So it's quite interesting how we're more civilized, I suppose.
Okay, so the categories are, César, if you'd like to, it's a bit synthetic because obviously we've already done this in Spanish. We already know what it's all about. So what's the first category, César?
The first category is a song that reminds you of being young.
Exactly. So you don't know what I have chosen.
I'm trying to think.
Oh yeah, guess if you like.
I think I know you well enough, but
you should be able to guess this.
Can you give me a hint?
There's a Spanish connection.
There's a Spanish connection. The first thing that came to mind was La Isla Bonita by Madonna. There's something.
Well, that's Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
No, it's not that. You'll kick yourself. Should I just say? Because this is not interesting to us now.
Mexico Latino?
God, no. But that is another good one. If you don't know, listener, hopefully you do know that classic by Jerry Halliwell. Yeah. Jerry Halliwell, whose mother is Spanish, actually. Anyway, no.
She's a former Spice Girl. You cannot take for granted that everyone is going to know who Jerry Halliwell is.
Halliwell.
She's Spanish. I pronounce it the Spanish way. Okay.
Okay. So no, it was actually Yes Sir, I Can Boogie by Baccarat. I love that song.
Yeah, it's a really nice song. I know you love that song, but how would you want me to think that song might remind you of being young? It's a song from the 70s.
Well, let's talk about it. It is from the 70s, but it reminds me so much of being in the kitchen with my mum when she put on music, and I loved 1970s music when I was growing up because I used to enjoy listening to it with my mum. And so a lot of my favorite songs ever, like Band of Gold, which is a song you really like now, or Together We Are Beautiful, which is another one which I think is amazing. I love these songs. And Yes Sir, I Can Boogie, I like it because it has, that they actually entered Eurovision.
Oh, really?
But not for Spain.
For the UK?
No, I think for Andorra, maybe. I can't remember. Okay. But for another country, not with that song. But it's such a good song. And even when I feel incredibly depressed, I think just the beginning of that song, when they're kind of like harmonizing with the music coming in, it's just such a fun, happy song. And the other thing I love about it, which I love about most music, which you know already, is that it's happy, but there's also this real melancholy to it. And I really like songs that have that kind of happiness, but the edge to it as well.
Yeah, I can see that. It's a shame we cannot play the songs here. Maybe we should sing them.
I don't think that would help identify them. Maybe we can do that thing when they say pause here and go and find the song. Yeah. So it's called Yes Sir, I Can Boogie. Boogie is a type of dance, basically.
And it was sang by a Spanish band.
Yeah. And it's just such a good song. Go and watch the video as well. It's great. I love their accents on the song as well, because you can actually hear their accents through the music. So I think that was a really good song. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the next one.
Okay.
A song that reminds you of someone important in your life.
A song that reminds me of someone important in my life. Yes. Okay. So,
I think you will have money because you've told me many times, oh, this song reminds me of my mom when I was little, or this song reminds me of this ex, or this song reminds me of this friend. Like you create many connections because you actually listen to a lot of music.
Yeah.
I listen to more podcasts than music, but you listen to so much music every day. So
Yeah. Do you know, funnily enough, I even though I chose these topics, I forgot to actually choose this song.
I already
Yeah. So I'll actually
you can
have
say
to.
a song that reminds you of me.
What song reminds me of you?
Many.
Okay, I have one, and it's a bit ludicrous. I am happier than I was 8 years ago, for various different reasons, and obviously you are a big part of that. But
Are you talking to the listener or to me?
yeah, to you, and there is one song from a musical that I have never seen, and the musical is The Little Shop of Horrors, I think it's called.
I have no idea.
And I don't know how I came across this song. I don't know anything about the context of it, but it's called Suddenly Seymour, and I absolutely love it. It's actually a duet between the main character, I think, and I guess his love interest. And I suppose that for me, you know, the whole first verse is about basically the man singing to this woman, kind of like, wipe off your makeup, show me your face. Things were bad, but now they're okay. And that's, you know, without being too emotional about it, that's kind of how I felt about you, that you know, you definitely changed my life and made me a lot happier very quickly when I met you. And that's I was moving the wine away from me.
Yes. Because I'm scared you're gonna
gesticulate, move my arms wildly. Yeah, and I think it's a very sad song, but then I don't know, it really spoke to me, the song at the time, and the lyrics I could easily change from Suddenly Seymour to Suddenly César. So I sing it quite often, and I just change your name for the lyrics, don't I? So that is a song that reminds me of someone important in my life. If the person who told us once that they didn't like the fact that we said te quiero at the end of a podcast in Spanish is listening, I'm really sorry. This will be way too much for you. So the next one.
Okay. A song that you think is beautiful, either lyrically, or in terms of melody.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you have any ideas I might have chosen for this?
I'm thinking of Susan Boyle.
Yeah. Do you know, I do love Susan Boyle, and you know,
and there's a specific song, it's a cover from Madonna.
Yeah.
Thing. Is it Like a Virgin or Like a Prayer?
Like a Prayer. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a beautiful song.
I think that is really beautiful, and I feel embarrassed that
Susan Boyle's version specifically.
Yeah. I mean, Madonna's version is beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel embarrassed that you have said this because you've outed me both as kind of a Susan Boyle fan and also someone who thinks that cover is incredibly beautiful. But I do think it's incredibly beautiful because you hear the emotion in her voice.
Yeah. I mean, Oliver, I tried to buy tickets for a Susan Boyle's concert.
Yeah.
When we were living in London, but there wasn't.
She never does any work, does she?
She doesn't perform anymore.
Yeah, she doesn't tour.
She might come to Spain.
Maybe. I would love to see Susan Boyle live.
We'll try.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's great. But no, that's not the song. I've chosen something almost as weird, which is by someone we were supposed to see, but I never made it because I was sick.
Who was the drag queen?
The drag queen,
exactly. Drag queen, Trixie Mattel.
Trixie Mattel.
Yeah.
I personally find this quite interesting, and I recognize this is an episode where it's basically just me talking, I guess, to the very flawed nature of what we've chosen to do. But so, long story, Taylor Swift, who started out as a country singer, she had a song called Mean.
Yeah.
You know the song?
Yeah, about this critic who was really mean to her.
Exactly. Now, that critic is quite a famous country music blogger.
Okay.
And that critic reviewed Trixie Mattel's first 2 albums because they were country albums before Trixie also shifted into pop. And I should say that Trixie Mattel is just a drag queen from RuPaul's Drag Race, one of the American relatively early seasons, and has become pretty famous relative to the other drag queens in a more mainstream level. But I think that Trixie, or the actual guy, is called Brian. I think he grew up in Milwaukee or something like that and sings country music or sang country music. And I genuinely think the first 2 albums are so ridiculously beautiful. And some of the lyrics of them are so moving. I feel like it's genuinely like poetry. And you'd never expect that kind of thing from a drag queen. And I think it's amazing. And there's a song called I Know You All Over Again, which I've played you lots of times.
Yeah.
And I think like the way the words work, it genuinely to me sounds like poetry. And so maybe, listener, you'll go and listen and you'll think, what are you talking about? But I just think it's so beautiful. And the other kind of person that I was thinking about when I chose this topic, chose this song,
Dolly.
Yeah.
I Will Always Love You.
I Will Always Love You. And how did you know that?
Well, because I remember when you told me, I didn't know that I Will Always Love You was originally it was written by Dolly Parton.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, I think, made famous, or it was made even more famous by Whitney Houston, right?
I think it's fair to say made famous, and it made Dolly Parton a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. And I remember you listening to that song and telling me, I think this is such a beautiful song.
Yeah.
The way her voice works on this song.
I prefer Dolly Parton's version because obviously I don't think she's as skilled a vocalist as Whitney Houston. The production and everything and the voice and everything like that. I mean, I think, well, I shouldn't say she's not as skilled. It's very different.
Yeah. She's got that country voice.
Yeah.
Right? And it works very well way she does it.
Exactly. She communicates so much emotion and I suppose it being her song makes a difference. She wrote it, but it's not actually a love song. I think interestingly, she wrote it because she was leaving her longtime collaborator and manager. Maybe if we ever split up on the podcast, I can sing you that. But yeah, I think that's a great song. And there's another song by her called Eugene, Oregon, which is when she was really depressed and she went to the city of Eugene, which I think is the birthplace of Nike. And Nike, footwear. She was really depressed and they were lovely to her on stage there. And she wrote this song as a thank you. And I think it's funny for me that Trixie Mattel and Dolly Parton were the 2 people that came to mind because Trixie has basically based her image.
Yeah, I mean, they're the same person now. Yeah.
Exactly, a parody of Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, we still have
a song that had a big impact on your life.
Okay, yeah. You'll know this song. No one listening will know this. It's not even a song, it's a recording.
Sunscreen.
No, but that is actually great. Yeah, I should have chosen Sunscreen. Instead, I chose the intro to one of Cheryl Cole's albums.
Okay, well, yeah. What is the name of the song? Well, it's like
intros. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Cheryl Cole is a very, very famous celebrity in the UK. Since this is English and Beyond, we do have a requirement to bring you highbrow culture.
Yeah. Probably many people have discovered Cheryl Cole recently because she is the mother of Liam Payne's son.
Yeah.
Is it Liam Payne's?
Exactly.
Who recently died.
Exactly. So Liam Payne recently died. He was a member of One Direction. And in fact, I think the first year he ever auditioned, she was a judge on the show, on the X Factor, that put together, the show put together One Direction as a boy band. And she was famous because she had herself come to prominence because of a TV show, Pop Stars. And then she married a footballer and she was a bit like Victoria Beckham and David Beckham. But, she ended up having quite a big pop career. So one of the most successful British female artists in UK chart history, and a source of huge arguments in my house because my dad always used to criticize her all the time. And you can't believe how many arguments we've had about something so stupid that him saying that she was talentless and my sister and I defending her because even if she's not the most naturally talented singer, she worked really hard, and she worked really hard as a dancer, and she actually was very successful. And we respect hard workers in every other part of life, but for some reason with kind of a lot of the time female artists, people say, oh, well, you know, if they're not naturally talented, they're not born with this an incredible gift, then they should hide in a cave. But anyway, so she recorded, well, you tell us about this song or this thing.
I actually only remember one line where she says, if money wasn't the problem, what would you do? No?
So she actually says nothing. Instead, it's a recording of a philosopher called Alan Watts. And basically the idea of it is the thing that kind of means a lot to me, or that I think had a big impact on me, was this idea that he asked young people what they wanted to do with their lives. And they were never really sure. But, and I'll quote because this is something I can just read. When we finally got down to something which the individual says he really wants to do, I will say to him, you do that and forget about the money. Because if you say that getting the money is the most important thing, you will spend your life completely wasting your time. You'll be doing things that you don't like doing in order to go on living. That is, to go on doing things you don't like doing, which is stupid. And I just, it's so stupid for me that I heard this in a Cheryl Cole intro. But it had like a huge impact on my life because I think
it's actually a really good piece of philosophy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really, really simply described. Yeah. So that album came out in 2014. So I was just starting to be a lawyer. And I remember thinking, I can't believe that I am having to do this. Like, basically to do something I don't like, something I've chosen for the money. And I'm doing it just to carry on living. That is, doing something I don't like.
So you had the realization of getting trapped.
Yeah, basically
I worked so hard all these years to be trapped.
Yeah, I'm here doing this because Cheryl recorded that intro. So thank you, Cheryl. So I think because I'm conscious of the fact that it's, you know, almost 25 minutes in and
already
the listener's probably quite bored, how about we discuss together one of the two? So you can choose either a book or a luxury item that you have. What would you like to take to the desert island so we can have you speaking a bit more?
I go with a book.
Okay, and what book will it be?
It will be a book called The Meaning of Life, I think it is. I read it in Spanish by Victor Frank.
Victor Frank. Yeah. Okay.
I think that's the name of the author.
So tell me about it.
He was
I think in
psychiatrist.
Okay, so in English it's called Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning. That's true. Yeah.
Okay.
He was a psychiatrist and he spent a few years, I think, in a concentration camp. And he wrote his book there. And I read that book when I used to go with my stepdad for his chemotherapy sessions. So it was a time that for me was obviously really hard, or especially for him because he was the one with the disease and for the whole family. But I had so many questions about life and death, and you know, the purpose of life. So I was like asking myself many questions and trying to get the answers. And someone recommended to me that book, and I read it. It's actually highlighted and with so many notes and everything.
Which you do a lot in books, actually.
Yeah, but especially in that book. And if you ask me, can you actually summarize that book? I think I couldn't do it. Because I've forgotten part of the content of the book, but I know that it had such a huge impact on me.
Interesting.
It was really useful.
That's
I mean, it's a super famous book. It's always on the shelves of the self help categories
yeah.
in bookstores.
I'd never heard of it,
Really?
so that's interesting. I mean, that's much more profound than what I chose. I chose the
Cheryl's biography.
I've actually read both her biography and autobiography. Yeah.
What were they very different?
The biography was basically someone had obviously watched pop stars and just imagined what she would feel like. So it was quite, I enjoyed it, but it was not particularly intellectual. The book I actually chose was The Song of Achilles, which you've
I've
also
read
read.
as well.
Yeah.
Bought it from
My sister bought it for me.
Mhm.
It was classical. It's kind of gay. Makes me cry at the end all the time. And I actually enjoyed it. I mean, originally I was going to defend this a lot more as a point, so I'm just going to throw it out there to absolutely destroy any intellectual credibility that I have. But I actually enjoyed it more than the Iliad, which I read in ancient Greek.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I can understand
Well,
why.
but even if I hadn't, I read it in English as well, and I really don't like the Iliad. I find it such a slog. I've read the Odyssey as well.
What's a slow? Something pretentious?
No, it's just such it's a really hard task. You feel like you're dragging yourself through it. I read the Odyssey as well, which is not the sequel, but it's kind of the follow-on, and thought that was way better. But I think I might prefer the kind of the cheap, modern adaptation, The Song of Achilles, more than these two classics of world literature.
The pop version.
Yeah, so having bored that, I mean, probably very few people have made it to this point in the episode anyway to judge me. So if you have, listener, thank you very much. As I said, you can go and find now the Spanish version of this episode where we ask César his favorite music.
But I'm not asking you about the last version, about the luxury item.
I mean, but I'm not sure we have time.
Okay.
We can if you like. It was
What is it quickly?
It was either a fully equipped gym or a piano with a self-teach book, because as we know, I like learning stuff. I think, going to the gym is very good for your mental health, which you probably need on a desert island.
Yeah, and I'm sure you would be able to work out with the palm trees and swimming.
Maybe. But I would like to learn. I feel like even for me, learning a language on a desert island with no one to talk to is a little bit of a waste of time. And I say that even as someone who spent, a decade and a half learning Latin. But I think that I'd probably go for the piano overall, because it would be cool and also good for your mental health.
Yeah, I agree.
And maybe a good emotional outlet for those long, long nights. Although you've got no electricity, so I guess you'd have to play by touch.
Yeah, but the piano doesn't need to have electricity, no?
No, but the lights to see what you're playing. Okay, well, thank you, César.
Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you, listener. If you were able to bear this, share the episode with others. They're not normally this self-obsessed, but I really had no time to plan something more in depth. So thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.